Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day is regarding the Biden administration sending 1,500 troops to the southern border ahead of the expected surge because Title 42 is being repealed on May 11th. And boy, oh boy, are they going to see a surge. They're going to see a tsunami wave of illegal immigrants pouring across the border in numbers we've never seen before. We're going to break it down for today, folks. As always, support a true American patriot by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. The question of the day for y'all is, do you think the border's secure? Look, I know it's basic and I'm expecting certain answers, but it's a question nonetheless because the Biden administration is telling us the border's secure. You have the DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas telling Congress the border's secure, multiple times, by the way. And then you have the mouthpiece of the leader of the free world, Karine Jean-Pierre, which we'll have in our second segment of the day, answering questions about the border and illegal crossings. She tells us that the border's secure as well. So we'd love to hear from you. Again, I know certain answers are going to appear, but heck, like I said, it does support the show, so your help and support would be greatly appreciated. Well, as I mentioned, the Biden administration is sending 1,500 troops to the U.S. southern border ahead of, get this, an expected surge in illegal crossings next week. Now, let's try to wrap our heads around this because they say the border's secure multiple times. They quadruple down on this, that the border's just completely fine. Karine Jean-Pierre says there's just people not walking across the border. DHS Secretary to Congress says the border's secure, that all this stuff isn't happening. They're going to sit here and send 1,500 troops with a secured border, but at the same time, they're going to expect a surge in illegal crossings, meaning illegal immigrants will be crossing the border next week. How that makes sense, I don't know, but if anybody knows, let us all know in the comment section below because we haven't been able to figure it out here. Well, Title 42, if you recall, a Trump-era public health order that basically allowed the immediate expulsion of illegal immigrants, well, that's set to be released on May 11th. Title 42 end is widely expected to bring a fresh cascade of illegal migration, with some predicting as many as 11,000 crossings per day. I've heard as big as 16,000. To put this in perspective, and we'll hear Karine Jean-Pierre actually speak on this in just one moment, is in yesterday's episode, we talked about how Chicago's mayor, Lori Lightfoot, is complaining and begging Governor Greg Abbott of Texas to stop busing illegal immigrants to Chicago. And we've heard the same thing from Eric Adams. Chicago's seen 8,000 illegal aliens being bused to them since August of 2022, since almost a year ago. I understand that we're only in, May, but it's pretty close to a year or so. They're expecting 11,000 crossings per day. So Mayor Lori Lightfoot can't contain, their infrastructure can't handle 8,000 in a year, but you got Texas and Arizona seeing 11,000 a day. It's insane. So the troops will perform basically administrative and logistical functions, and they're going to leave the law enforcement to the Border Patrol, but freeing up border agents to actively police the border and apprehend migrants. Why would you need to do that? If everything's secure down there, why would you need to send 1,500 troops to the border? Guess who asked that question to Karine Jean-Pierre, which we will see today as well? The man, the myth, the legend, the gladiator, Peter Ducey of Fox News, asks that very same question to Karine Jean-Pierre. Boy, oh boy, I can't wait for you to hear her response to all this. Well, the military personnel will join, get this, 2,500 National Guard troops already assigned to the border. Not that the border agents can't figure it out. The Biden administration can't figure this out. Remember, it went from a challenge to then to a situation, and it just remained there. It was never a crisis whatsoever. I mean, you're talking about 11,000 people a day, you guys. That's insane. So get this, quote, for 90 days, these 1,500 military personnel will fill critical capability gaps, such as ground-based detection and monitoring data entry and warehouse support, until CBP can address these needs through contracted support. Military personnel will not directly participate in law enforcement activities. This deployment to the border is consistent with other forms of military support to DHS over many years. What's amazing here is you've had literally millions of people come across the border, like over 1 million just gotaways, by the way. It doesn't include the people that we actually apprehended. Millions of people pouring across the border. So it just shows that Joe Biden, at the snap of his fingers, could send military personnel to assist our border patrol agents, but he doesn't want to do it. So now when he knows that bleep's about to hit the fan, and he has at least some awareness of it happening, he's going to send only 1,500. Well, the Biden administration's move to post military personnel at the border is reminiscent of an action taken by, gosh, who had the wherewithal to do this? Oh, Donald Trump, ahead of the 2018 midterm election. Trump ordered 5,200 active duty troops to the border to help secure it against a caravan of migrants that at that time numbered only 3,500 people. They're expecting 11,000 a day. Trump sends freaking more than twice the amount of troops down there, active duty troops, when only 3,500 people are coming at the border. You got 11,000 per day. So they can't get this under control. whatsoever, which leads the White House press pool to question her on this idea of illegal immigration. This first question that's being proposed here is from a reporter that we've seen many of times, but she questions Karine Jean-Pierre on the southern border, but also on the idea about Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot complaining about having illegal immigrants bust to her city, her sanctuary city, her right to shelter, as well as Eric Adams. Let's hear it.
Allergies are bad this year.
Oh my gosh, the pollen is quite something.
Thank you for the question. So Governor Greg Abbott has said that he will continue sending migrants to Democrat-run cities after Title 42 expires.
Good.
The mayors of Chicago and New York have already responded saying they simply do not have space. What is the administration doing to help state and local governments prepare ahead of the expected influx of migrants?
So look, it's unfortunate that Governor Abbott continues to play politics with migrants and with the American people, because what he's doing, that's what it looks like. It looks like a political stunt instead of trying to address the situation, or maybe get the congressional members and senators that are in his state to actually ask them to work with us on truly dealing with the problem, with trying to figure out how do we deal with immigration reform. Instead of doing that, he wants to play politics. So that's what we've seen from this governor. It's not
Play politics? You're the one playing politics. And by the way, you're going to blame it on Congress once again for, well, they don't have the courage. They don't have basically the cojones to sit there and solve the problem. You had all three branches of government for literally 2 years and you did nothing. You did nothing. Okay? You created this whole mess in the first place. You did nothing. And the question was predicated, what are you going to do to help basically these people that boasted about being sanctuary cities for literally years and years and called Trump a racist for what's going on at the southern border, but now Joe Biden's doing the exact same thing that Trump did, but nobody's going to call Joe Biden a racist. It's remarkable here that she's going to sit there and play these games. Oh, well, they're political pawns because they're busing people where they wanted to go to places that boast about them being sanctuary cities, and now those people can't sit there and take a few thousand illegal aliens, but they expect 11,000 to be inflowed into Texas for them to take care of it and foot the bill. It's remarkable. It's remarkable. It's evil at the end of the day, but it's still remarkable nonetheless.
surprising. That's what he's continued to do. Our administration has been in touch with mayors and local government to see how we can be helpful to them. That has continued over the last several months because Republicans continue to play politics here to put political stunts ahead of actually making change. And if you think about what we've put together, if you think about wanting us to put protections for dreamers and farm workers, more immigration judges and asylum officers, more funding for border security, and all of this, which is part of the president's legislation and what we've been urging Congress to act on, what we saw just earlier this week is over 430 business groups wrote to members of Congress calling on them to get this done. 430 businesses have called on Congress to get this done. So this is getting support out there. American people want to see this. Businesses want us to act as well, want Congress to act. And so we're going to continue to do that and to call on Congress, but Republicans are in the way. And Republicans in Congress are getting in the way. And what Abbott is doing does not help.
That is so insane that she has the balls. And by the way, Democrats believe all this stuff that's pouring out of her mouth, this garbage. They actually believe it, that it's Republicans' fault. Literally, the border wall is laying in the desert and they're not willing to build it. They're actually paying people, giving people taxpayer dollars to not build the border wall, to just sit there and hold on to it. Just let it lay there in the sun. It's insane. And then when you have the states, on the state level, Arizona and Texas actually build a makeshift border wall out of shipping containers. You have the EPA come and say, hey, this is federal land. You guys can't do it. It's ruining the environment. In the desert, it's ruining the environment, but it's all Republicans' fault. You're a liar. You're a liar, and everybody sees it. Everybody sees the garbage that's being poured out of your mouth, lady. It's toxic. It's wrong. But hey, we're going to call it out. Nonetheless, we're always going to call it out here on the Ball and Brad Show.
The situation.
I hear what you're saying about immigration reform. I'm not hearing specifics about how you're providing resources to state and local governments to handle the expected influx.
And I have said that
they're literally not, by the way. Eric Adams of New York City literally asked for like $1 billion or some nonsense from the federal government and never got it. The states are literally asking for help. If you look at Texas, because who cares about Chicago and New York City? They did that to themselves. Texas and Arizona, the localities there, are asking the Biden administration to refund them for everything they're having to pay for there on a local level that's being pulled out of their budget for what the Biden administration caused, and they're not getting any response. Years they've been asking for this. They're not getting any response. And by the way, the Biden administration went down to the border and said they would actually secure certain areas of the border for these localities in these states. Haven't done it. They haven't heard back from them in literally years.
We have been in touch with state and local governments to help them in any way that we can. We have done that the past several months, whether it is Chicago, whether it's New York City. We have had extensive conversations, even with the D.C. mayor, on how we can help moving forward.
She's asking for specifics, you knucklehead. Not that I had conversations with somebody. We called them up on the phone. What are the specifics? She doesn't have the specifics in her head, nor does she have them in the binder, because the knucklehead that's running the show called Joe Biden, it doesn't have anything up here, doesn't have the specifics either. Nobody has the specifics because there's nothing there. They aren't doing anything other than making the problem worse.
And again, we're in constant communication, whether it's the White House, whether it's DHS, whether it's FEMA even, and how we can help cities. Every city has their own specific need that they need to address to this issue. And so, yeah, we've been in constant communication. That has happened. And I've talked about it multiple times, whichever mayor is asking for assistance from the federal government.
And then just quickly on the...
What a lie. And I would also like to point out that when you had COVID, that's how far back this goes. When you have the COVID lockdowns, there were still illegal immigrants pouring across the border. And we talked about how literally the Biden administration had to ask the CDC to expand their numbers in terms of what their capacity could be, because the capacity was only at 50%, but they were stuffing people in there like sardines. You had like 250 plus people that were only supposed to be in a pod of like 100. They had like these people crammed in there, and they were begging the CDC, can you please make it 100% capacity because we can't handle all these numbers. So of course the CDC bowed down to them and allowed 100% capacity. And then they ran out of room still. And so they were flying them on planes in the dark of the night to the interior of the country without telling anybody, by the way. We saw security footage of that. Literally an officer walks up to an undocumented plane, no pun intended with undocumented immigrants on the plane, but walking up on the tarmac going, hey, like, why are you guys hiding in, like, literally under the dark of the night? They're not in any light. And the guy goes, yeah, we don't want anybody to know about what we're doing here. We covered that years ago. And she's going to say that we're making political pawns of these people by chauffeuring them the places where they want to go. It's insane. I mean, you can go time and time again. Let's bring up another thing under COVID-19 where literally they were busing these immigrants to the interior of the country, mostly to the local areas in Texas and Arizona. And then what they were doing was they had to sit there and give these illegal aliens COVID-19 basically tests to see if they had it. And guess who was footing the bill for that? It was the localities. And actually had a locality declare an emergency, like a locality state of emergency, if that's what you call it, because they didn't have the funding for it. They couldn't handle it. This is go back years. But hey, the Biden administration is making sure he answers all their questions. Sure. Lady, you haven't answered a question since you've been up there, okay? And not since it's been up there in the last 24 hours. Since you've literally taken the job, you haven't answered a question. We cover here all the time. And when you do, and maybe it's happened slightly, it's like breaking news. Notify the newspapers. Karine Jean-Pierre actually answered a question. In her mind, you guys, in her crazy mind, and maybe Joe Biden's been rubbing off on her a little bit too much. Maybe, I'm not going to go there. I don't want to get in trouble. It's YouTube, folks. It's YouTube. I got a lot of content I want to say, a lot of funny stuff, but we can't do it here. So we got Peter Doocy of Fox News here, the Gladiator, asking if the border is secure, Karine, why do you need 1,500 troops down there? Watch her response. It just shows you how disingenuous she is and how much of a liar she is and how untrustworthy she is. Let's roll it.
Thank you. If the border is secure, as the administration has said, then why would we need to send 1,500 active duty U.S. troops down there?
Because we need more work. More work needs to be done, Peter. We put forth a comprehensive immigration legislation, and Republicans in Congress refuse to act. And so the president has used the tools that he has in front of him to prepare ahead of Title 42 lifting. As you know, that is happening in the next couple of days. And so we are putting DHS, Department of State, is putting forth processes to deal with the changes that are going to be ahead of us. And so that
it just changes. That's not a big deal. You guys' messaging is insane. It's insane. Border secure. Gotta send 1,500 troops down there to scare it.
That is what's important here, and that's what you've been seeing for the past several months. You've heard from DHS, you've heard from the State Department on what we're putting in place to deal with the border once Title 42 lifts.
I would also like to add, we did cover what type of measures they were trying to propose. They had it on the screens behind them during a White House press briefing, and we looked at all of them. None of them, hand to God, stopped this from happening. None of them stopped the surge of illegal aliens pouring across the border. I will give you one primary example of one of the things they were trying to implement here, and they want to implement. You guys, they want to sit there and helicopter people and transport people via vehicle as well, and buses and other modes of transportation from one area to another inside the country. That's one of them. So people are going to pour across the border legally, and what they're going to do is sit there and process them, in air quotes for those listening on audio, and they're going to bus them, they're going to drive them, they're going to van them, whatever you want to call it, fly them as well, in helicopters and airplanes to different areas of the country. This is the Biden administration for you folks. Democrats love it, and they'll vote for it again.
You said yesterday that when it comes to illegal migration, you've seen it come down by more than 90%. Where did that number come from?
I was
CBP
speaking.
is telling us the number is.
I hear you. I'm about to answer.
136,000 people more.
I'm about to
this
answer
fiscal
you.
year so far.
If the dramatics could come down just a little bit.
If
the dramatics could come down a little
What's
bit.
dramatic about asking a question about?
Okay, I'm going to answer. So I was speaking to the parole.
What was dramatic about that at all? I've seen Peter way more dramatic than that. Literally, when he was asking Joe Biden about the classified documents in his garage next to his Corvette, he goes, "What were you thinking?" That was the theatrics. That was him being silly, and he does that on purpose because he knows he's not going to get any sort of answer from the Biden administration. And since the Biden administration is going to act silly and like a clown show, you might as well do the same thing, give back to them what exactly they're giving you. And she's going to sit here when it was a good freaking question and go, "Oh, the theatrics? How about the theatrics of your clown show that you've been doing for freaking 2 years?" It's literally a clown show. Everybody knows you don't answer questions. Everybody knows you can't read from your binder without it having there. Heck, even when you do read from it, it doesn't give us answers. Joe Biden doesn't give us answers. You don't give us answers. And when you do give us answers, you lie straight to our face.
Parolee program, as you know,
Yeah,
the president put in place a parolee program to deal with certain countries on ways that we can limit illegal migration, and we have seen the data has shown us that it has gone down by more than 90%. That was what I was speaking
And
to.
just to
No,
follow up really
we're
quick,
gonna
the
go. We're gonna
president
move.
talks a lot
Go ahead.
about
Go ahead.
how
Go
much-
ahead. Go ahead. We're moving.
She moves on real quick. You know, it's amazing how she moves on really fast when tough questions are thrown her way. If you notice that, we've seen it happen with Philip Wegman of Real Clear Politics. We've seen it happen with Peter Ducey's co-worker, Jackie Heinrich of Fox News. And we see it happen to Peter Ducey of Fox News all the time. She'll sit there and waste like 2 weeks not calling Fox News. They give her some hardball questions because she doesn't have to answer to them. And now when she gives non-answers to questions that were proposed to her, she's just going to move on really quick because she doesn't have any answers. She doesn't have any solutions. They don't know what the hell's going on, but they're going to pretend like they do, and they're going to lie straight to your faces. Folks, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. We'd love your support here on the Bullet Brad Show. We are growing as a community. Moving into our last story of the day, we have a mob of 9th graders accused of beating up and hospitalizing a female assistant principal as she tried to break up the fight. Quote, "She loves those kids." I don't know about it anymore, folks. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. We've talked about this so many times. I can do story after story, week after week, about how teachers are being assaulted, abused, both physically and verbally, all the time. But I don't cover it. I just bring awareness to what is happening. This is an epidemic, but the school systems don't want to do anything about it. The Democrats and progressive left don't want to do anything about it. From what I've seen, it's the conservatives and Republicans that actually want to solve the issue and be harsh on this type of stuff. But again, we are a minority inside the education system. So a mob of 9th graders are accused of beating up a female assistant principal, quote, kicking her and pulling her hair, according to one teacher, as she tried to break up a fight on Thursday at Westfield High School in Spring, Texas. We do have a video here of it, but every time I post any sort of video that YouTube, the Democrats, and progressive left don't even remotely like, we get demonetized, we get our video taken down, or it gets pushed to have to be 18 years or older, even though when you have Democrats and progressive left push the same video out there and blame it on Republicans somehow, how that makes sense, I don't know, but this is what they do, then their video gets to stay, but ours gets taken down or something happens to it. It's just remarkable. So I'm not going to show it, but I'm sure you can picture 50, 60 kids watching a fight, and then the teacher, or should I say the assistant principal, coming in, trying to break it up, and they all start ganging up on her and just beating the crap out of her. So what are the details of all this? Well, one of the teachers at the school site says it breaks my heart, it makes me want to cry. After viewing and seeing the shocking beatdown, the teacher requested basically not to be on camera and to mod her voice over fear of retaliation from the school district, which is insane. We got a video clip here for you folks from a local news outlet covering this story, and we'll break it down for you as well. I'll give my commentary on what I think about this all. Let's go and roll it.
Well, an assistant principal at Westfield High School in Spring ISD beaten up so badly at school, she had to be rushed to the hospital. That is according to her family.
Tonight, other staff members are coming forward saying this is not the first time faculty have been injured by students on the job. They fear it will not be the last. KPRC2's Devin Clark is outside Westfield High School with that part of the story all new at 10.
I did speak to that now injured assistant principal's family today, who says she was attacked for no reason while trying to break up a fight. Now in a hospital, hardly able to talk. Meanwhile, other faculty here at Westfield High School sounding off about what they say is a history of violence and little being done to stop it.
It broke my heart. It makes me want to cry.
This Westfield High School teacher asked not to be identified out of fear of retaliation from Spring ISD. Still, she says she felt compelled to speak out after the assistant principal here suffered a brutal beatdown while trying to break up a fight.
3 or 4 other kids jumped in on her and just pummel her to the ground. And they are kicking her and pulling her hair.
The assistant principal had to be rushed to the hospital.
She loves those kids. She is the nicest person. And she's the best administrator that we have at Westfield High School.
Spring ISD released a statement that partly reads, quote, all students involved in the altercation will be subject to the full extent of disciplinary action available. We take these issues very seriously as the safety of our students.
No, you don't. You just got done hearing how this has happened time and time again. You don't take these issues seriously because if you did, they wouldn't be happening time and time again. And you got to love this language. Look at this. Full extent of disciplinary action available. Keyword available. Because sometimes the schools are barred from doing certain disciplinary action, like giving them a suspension, a week-long suspension, literally kicking them out of the school altogether for this type of behavior, or having detentions. I mean, that is a key word there, because their hands might actually be tied on this, so they can't do anything, because the progressives and Democrats love this type of stuff, because if they didn't, it wouldn't be happening. Folks, I am telling you right now, this is an epidemic, and I'll come back to this really quickly. I just want to highlight, you have no idea what is going on in the school system. I'm an educator myself. Very rarely do I like using that kind of, I don't want to call it position of authority, but like somebody like, well, you don't understand what I'm going through. This is an epidemic. Teachers, regardless if they're nice and they're the best teacher ever and super professional and never yell and treat students terribly, even if you're the best teacher and you treat everybody with respect and you're quiet and you're calm and you do your job, there's still students out there that don't care a two about their education. They actually want to ruin it for everybody else. And because the Democrats don't want to give harsh punishment to these students, they just sit there and allow this stuff to go on time and time again. This is the result of it. So everybody gets screwed at the end of the day. The students that want to have a quality education, they get screwed. The parents that want their students to have a quality education, they get screwed. And then the teachers get screwed as well. So, it's just, and then they can't fathom why this stuff happens. Oh, well, we should just give them a slap on the wrist. Just let them go back in the classroom and deal with the same teacher again that's causing these disruptions. It's remarkable. It's remarkable.
Students and staff is our highest priority. There will be no tolerance for any altercations or disruptions to learning, end quote. But this teacher says that simply isn't true.
When you call for help to the front office, nobody ever shows up.
Adding the entire campus only has 2 officers.
We don't feel safe. Faculty don't feel safe, and parents, if the parents knew how unsafe the inside of the school is, they would be upset.
We're not really sure how long the assistant principal is going to have to stay in the hospital. Her father says she's suffering from excruciating head pain that will need to be constantly monitored. She's also going to need a CAT scan. Reporting outside of Westfield High School, Devin Clark, KPRC2 News.
God, if I was that principal, multi-million-dollar lawsuit, just huge lawsuit, especially if this keeps happening over and over again. And I can't emphasize this enough, you guys. I know I'm repeating myself. We could do these stories day in and day out. It's not one of those things that I've talked about in the past where the progressive left and Democrat Party utilize outliers and then subscribe it to the data set of those as a whole. The abuse that teachers get happens in every single school. Every school. It just comes mostly in the form of verbal abuse. The physical abuse happens in almost every school district as well. Even that comes from pushing a teacher, and people are for it. Parents and students, they let this stuff slide all the time. And then when you go, hey, why don't we talk about removing these bad behavior kids from the classroom altogether and putting them in their own separate classroom or kicking them out of the district and letting the parents deal with it? At the end of the day, all of a sudden you're looked at as a bad guy or a racist or a bigot or whatever it may be when you're trying to give people a quality education, but you have this one knucklehead in the class that doesn't want a quality education, that wants to disrupt it for everybody and ruin the environment altogether. So when you talk about removing the cause of the problem, now you're the problem for wanting to give a solution to the problem. You see how that one works? And you see it right here. There's a reason why the teacher didn't want to be on camera, for retaliation from the school district for wanting to solve the problem. So the Democrats and progressive left, they caused this mess, you guys. It's not conservative or Republicans. We want to solve this issue, but we're the minorities on campus. We got to keep our mouths shut because we're the racist, biggest, sexist, homophobes, whatever the hell you want to call them, even though we're not. We just want kids to get a quality education. This is happening everywhere. You got teachers being stabbed. My friend got stabbed in Long Beach before. I told you all about that one. I've been almost assaulted in the classroom with students picking up desks, trying to throw them at me. I've never yelled at a student. I've always been, I shouldn't say I never yelled at a student. I've definitely disciplined a student for leaving my class early many of times. That's happened before, and it was definitely a cause to give that type of reaction, because if something happened to that kid for leaving class early, guess who's liable? Me and the school district. That kid goes home, gets hit by a car, guess who's being sued? Whose career's over? Mine, as well as the school district's being sued for millions of dollars because that kid wanted to leave early. So that one was granted. But other than that, I'm a pretty laid-back teacher, I would like to think. I think a lot of the students would agree with that as well. I show everybody respect. Even if they show me disrespect, I will still be kind and polite 100%. But students are disrespectful. They're abusive. The parents enable the stuff at home as well because they didn't do anything about it. You have the society at large causing this problem because no longer can you receive certain type of punishment at home, or else you'll go to jail, or you have some sort of child abuse as well for giving a kid a spanking or whatever it may be nowadays. We all know how that one goes. So, the Democrats want to sit there and destroy our education system, which, by the way, folks, that is somewhat of an announcement. That is probably what my next book's going to be about, the rise and fall of the American education system, basically how the Democrat Party destroyed that one. We're currently in the research phase. We'll see if actually anything comes of it. If we can't create a book out of it, then, we'll move on to the next topic. We will write another one nonetheless, but let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. I could ramble for hours about this. Obviously, it strikes a chord with me as somebody that's a teacher. I want kids to get a good education. I don't like when kids are disruptive or hurting faculty members who are employees, by the way. Anywhere else, you wouldn't allow that behavior to happen inside a workplace. A school system or a classroom is a place of work, a place of business, and we keep just going, oh, well, they're teenagers. Oh, they're kids, oh, oopsie, we should let them ride. It doesn't work that way. Some of these people are high school students. They're 16 to 18 years old. They can think about their decision making that they're happening. If they make a bad decision, I'm sorry, there's consequences for it. But again, we can't have consequences anymore in the school system because, again, whatever reason it may be, bigotry or racism, systemic racism, or that student just didn't know better, or they have problems at home, or whatever it may be. There's always some sort of excuse for you getting knocked out as a teacher. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, folks. Thank you for always supporting The Ball Brad Show, and I'll see you tomorrow here on The Ball Brad Show.